Hello and welcome to the workshop Wednesday.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, there's music. There might not have been
Just
music on
now
the
you'll
intro.
hear it.
I might have broke it.
Oh no.
I think I might have broke the intro music. I don't know.
Oh no. But hello, people. Got Rampa, Space Burb, lots of folks.
Yep. Oh, I just need to set myself to do not disturb on that as well,
Good idea. Mm-hmm.
because all my notifications are going off now. There wasn't intro music. Okay, well that could be looked into. That would have probably been my fault when I was messing around with it earlier. Oh yeah, because I muted it because it was driving me crazy. That's why.
Oh.
Yeah, Gun Griffin. Whenever I stream, Twitch always does that. Twitch likes me. The problem is when you're listening to the Sightline VR soundtrack like continuously for like half an hour. Aegis, you appear to be phasing.
That's what he does.
Yeah, he's just going through a phase, clearly.
There he goes. You just get out of the table.
But how is everybody anyway? I hope you're all, Yeah, I had it on for about half an hour while I've been setting everything up. Because I kept it on the TV in the living room, so I've got company and they're watching. So, go figure. But yeah, how's everyone's week been up to now? I am absolutely exhausted.
My week's been good personally, but I'm very excited for the next coming days because I'm going to BLFC.
Yeah, whereas I'm just starting the post-con depression.
Oh.
But yeah, today we're finally covering something that Ryu V has been wanting to cover for a while now, and so has Aegis. And that is multi-tools. So, we can, change what we're holding and have, like, a 2-for-1 deal.
Yeah, like you can add as many tools as you want, custom tools. It makes life a lot easier and can speed up workflows by having all the tools in one place.
Oh yeah, it definitely does. And then you can get into... Hello, Electro, welcome. And you can also get into some of the more advanced stuff as well. Looks like a 10-for-1 deal. Yeah, mine is... What's mine? How many's mine? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, mine's 10. I have 10 on mine.
Pretty
I have
good.
exactly
I think that's
10.
2 more than what I have on mine.
Yeah, dev tip, logics tip, whatever that tip is. I think that's the component clone, whatever that one is. Pen, light, cube, shape, and these ones. I can't remember what they all are anymore. I should label them.
That would be a good idea.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
And I see Cinder's here, so...
Hello, people.
I forgot I had a custom tool on this.
Rue made a frickin' text with labels. Yeah. So as I say, I'm going to leave you in the hands of Ryuvi and Aegis. Actually, I know one thing that I really should put in this dev tip. And that's this.
Oh yeah, the camera object exclusion tip.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's gone. Oh.
Camera's on you, Ryuvi.
Alrighty. Well, let's head out. And we can begin. So, Aegis, how can we start creating a multi-tool? Where do we do that?
So, you're going to need a developer tooltip. And you're also going to need a logic step for this as well, too. In this case, with how we're going to design this. So, I got my dev tooltip here. I'm going to equip it open it up and create new. In this case, does it like start out with like a raw data tooltip?
Well, we could start with nothing, so we want to start with an empty object, I believe, in this case.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Mm-hmm. And the component for a multi-tool is just one component. It's a tool in and of itself, but it allows you to plug other tools into it and pick which one you like. I'll wait for you to name this. Example multi-tool. That's a good name.
Yep. Attach
All tools
component.
can be found underneath the tools category for the components list. Tooltips. And the one we're interested in, gotta scroll down for it, is the Tooltip Multiplexer you can find near the bottom of the list. Adding that gives you your empty multiplexer, object root, grabbable, and 2 grip poses.
Good practice to do is make like another child object underneath and kind of grouping those grip poses together.
Keeps things nice and tidy. What those grip poses are is for tools where you can adjust the position of the tool in your hand. It will save that grip pose so that it, like if you make a sword, for example, you're holding the sword properly instead of it being at some funny angle. However, since this is a tooltip, these grip poses have a tip slot underneath them, which they both have their own, but really we only need one. And what these do is if the tip is present in the grip poses component here, the tip reference, then the tooltip will use your tooltip anchor's position, and it's not necessarily posable. This is so that tooltips are always in the right place for everybody. And
And it helps position it for desktop as well too.
Yes, very much so. In our case, we only need one, so I'm going to delete one of these, grab the other one, and place it in the tip reference. I'm also going to move it outside of the grip pose just so that we can find it nice and easy. Now, going back to our multiplexer itself, let me deselect for a moment. It is like any other tooltip, but right now, if it doesn't have a visual, it doesn't have anything. In fact, this tooltip does absolutely nothing except give you something to equip. Oh, did you want to showcase the desktop thing before we get into this?
You think we should cover that first, or?
I think so.
Okay. Yeah.
So there's something special about desktop users, in that you can, before we get into multi-tools, you can absolutely make yourself a multi-tool and use it in desktop mode if it's designed for that. However, desktop mode users also have the ability to have access to a bunch of tooltips right off the bat. Nothing has to be done except press the number keys 2 all the way up to 9 and 0 on your
0 just clears it.
Or 1 clears it.
1 clears it, and then
depending on which number you press, you get a different tooltip. 2, for example, is the dev tip. 3, I think, is Logic's. Yeah.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 0. Hello. Hello.
Hello. So that's something nice to know for desktop users. You have a lot of things. You kind of have just a built-in multi-tool. Granted, of course, if you want more functionality than just that specific set of tools, a multi-tool would still be beneficial for you in desktop mode. Okay. I think there's not much more to say on that.
Nope, there really isn't.
Well, we can head back to our multi-tool. So, how a Tooltip Multiplexer works is, given an index and a list of tooltips here, you can pick which one of these tooltips is the current active one. And something that we can start with is we can make a new child under our multi-tool and call it Tools. A good place to store all of our tools. And underneath this, I think, quite frankly, our first tool on here should be a developer tooltip. So I made a new slot just for that. and I'm going to attach a new component, tools, tooltips, dev tooltip. And this, when you generate any of these tooltips, it also generates its visual. In this case, the default dev tip looks like this red cone. And it also generates itself with here's its visual and its grip poses. Now, normally when you make a tooltip, you want to keep these grip poses intact, as well as the grabbable on the tooltip so that you can move it around. But in our case, since it's kind of a sub-tool, a part of the greater multi-tool, we want to have it not be grabbable. And we also can get rid of these grip poses because it will use these instead up top. We do want to keep the visual, though, just so that we have something to see when we're holding the tool. And I think everything lines up. So with just this tool, the tool equips. And it is currently, it's currently nothing because we haven't assigned the developer tooltip, this one that we just made, into the multi-tool yet. But you can do that by going to the tooltip that you want, getting its specific component, and then going into your multi-tool and placing it in the list. Now, let me deselect. Now if I equip this tool and open it up, we see we have the dev tooltip context menu because the active tool index is set to 0, which is the index of our dev tip. If I change this to 1, which is a tooltip that we haven't yet inserted, it does nothing. So you can dynamically change what functionality this equipped tooltip has by its index and whatever tools you place on it. We go back to 0 and we have access to developer tooltip.
Now I noticed there's no laser when you select it.
There is for... well, I can see there is the laser here for dev tip. However, if we go to a tool that does not have anything, it does not have a laser, because the Tooltip Multiplexer doesn't have a laser of its own, for example. But as soon as I go back to the dev tip, then I can see its laser. One other thing that's very handy to do for your tooltips is to provide it with a tip reference. That is a point on the tooltip where the laser will come from. And we can, I guess underneath grip poses, or at the root, we'll add a new slot, call it tip reference. And we want to make sure that the blue axis, the z-axis, is pointing in the forward direction of the tool. And I'm going to move this forward about there. And then I'm going to take this tip reference and put it in the tip reference of all tools, including the Tooltip Multiplexer, so that they all utilize the same laser position, if the tool allows for that, that is. Now, one thing that I learned the hard way when making multi-tools a while ago is if you don't check the block grip equip and block remote equip on all of your tools, except for, of course, the main one, then there's, at least I've had instances where I've accidentally equipped a subtool and it just breaks everything. So make sure to check both of these on your subtools to make sure that it properly equips only the master
I should
multi-tool.
probably do that to this one.
Be a good idea.
That must have been how it broke last time.
Okay, so we have a developer tip. I'm going to add a new slot, and this time we're going to add logics. Let's go logics. I'm going to attach another component, tools, tooltips, logics tip. Now, let me deselect here. You'll notice on our tooltip there's both of the tool visuals at once. That's because we're viewing both of them at once, but we will get back to that later so that the visual is different for each tool. But like we did before, we want to check block equip on logics tip, get rid of its grabbable, and we can get rid of its grip poses. And we can get rid of that tip because we're going to have the logics tip use this tip reference that we made earlier instead. I'm going to temporarily hide the developer tooltip visuals just so that I can see the Logix visuals itself. Now, there's actually something funny about the default Logix tip visuals, in that this little circle here is supposed to be on the end, but it's not. It's an easy fix, though. We just have to go to the visual, and well, I think in this case, we don't even need this sphere because it's just kind of awkwardly at the middle. So, for the sake of us here, I'm going to remove it. Let's see what that looks like. There we go. Very basic visual for the Logix tip. And now we're going to go to the root of the Logix tip that we just made, grab it, go to our multi-tool, and put it in the next available slot on our multiplexer. Now, oh, thank you, Aegis. Now, this tooltip index is 0, so it's a dev tip. But if I change the active index to 1, which is the index of the Logix tip, it now is a Logix tip with a node browser and packing and interfaces and all of that good stuff. But our visual doesn't change yet. So even if we have it set to the dev tip in this case, it looks like a Logix tip and still shows you all of its visuals when it's not, and that's kind of misleading. Aegis, how do we make it so that the visuals for these tools only show for the one that's active? It's one component.
Let's start with the developer tooltip and then work our way down. So I'm going to select the root of it, might as well, and go to attach component, and I'm going to go to transform. It's under drivers.
Ah, yes, the folder where everything is.
Yep, scroll all the way down. You'll see one called value equality driver. And when you select that, scroll near the top, there is integer. That's the type that the multiplexer uses. And what this does, it takes a value and it sees if it's equal to another value you specify, and then it outputs true or false. Which means that, say if I get the value here, active tooltip index, I grab this and drag it to the target value. And if it's 0, then it's supposed to be true, but it's not driving any Boolean value here, or this checkbox up here. So I'm going to go up to where it says active, and grab it, and drag it and drop it in here. So now the dev tooltip will be active, but the Logix tooltip isn't. So I'm going to also add that here. Add component, transform, drivers, value equality driver, integer, and drag the active tooltip index into the target value. Put 1 for the reference instead, and get the active boolean and drag it and drop it into here. Now, if my UV equips the tool and I swap the number on the active tool index, it changes not only the function of the tool, but also the visual.
Very nice. And very simple, too. Now, there are some folks I've seen make multi-tools where they have their visuals be pretty consistent across the tools. But in case you want different visuals per tool, this is a very easy way to go about it.
Yeah, and it's simply just changing the visual. The visual doesn't really have that much of an impact of the tool itself, just visually, unless if it's like a specific type of tool, like a material tooltip. Because it has some extra functionality within it that you have to keep in mind of. And say, for example, like the microphone tooltip, say if you record a audio file, it changes colors, so you may have to program that capability into the material.
And of course, you're not for tools, and we're going to add more tools here, but for these tools underneath the multi-tool, you are not just limited to the tools that are available in tooltips, all of these, but
Brushes
there is
also work too.
there is a magical tooltip, the raw data tooltip, which allows you to, which provides to you an interface to make anything you want as a tool if you know how to program it. That's my window. What are you doing?
Grid snapping it. Oh, I
Mm.
forgot. I have to let it go. There we go.
Which, actually, the next tool I think we should add to this is a material tip, and then we will have the trifecta of tools in this stream's logo. We're going to add another slot, call it material. We're going to go to tools, tooltips, and add a material tip. Now, there is something unique about the default generated material tip, and that is well, after we go through and get rid of the grip poses and all of that stuff, let me just do this real quick. With the material tip, there's actually nothing on it that lets you grab it or select it, so we just have to go to its generated orb slot, go to its... I guess we can go to its visual, actually, and it doesn't actually generate with a collider, so well, we'll show how to add a collider to this here so that you can actually use the material tip when you dequip it. We're going to attach a component, physics, colliders, and in this case it's a simple shape, so we're going to add a convex hull collider and set it to no collision. Now we can actually grab this part of the tool.
Now, the only problem is right now that you just created is the tip position right here is colliding with the cone. And if you do ignore raycast, that means you can't grab it with your laser. So would it be best to just either move it back or move the tip position?
In this case, the material tip is kind of a special tool in terms of this, so I think this is worthy of an exception for it to use its own tip reference. So it came with one, so I'll actually reapply it. So if we equip this, well, it's currently not the material tip.
Oh, and that's also what the size knob is too.
Yes. So I totally forgot we need to grab the material tip and put it in the multiplexer on the next available slot, and I'm gonna give it the appropriate index. You can see the tip is now, well, I don't know if you can see that laser, but the laser is where it should be on the end of the material tip.
Now you can see the laser, so.
Good. Okay.
Quickly add the value equality driver here again. And this time it's 2, because it counts from 0. Drag active to that. And I got this open. Boom. Done.
There we go. So now we have 3 tools here. You can pick which one is active, but I'm sure you don't want to have to open an inspector and change an index every single time you want to change a tool. So the way that we're going to tackle that problem here is with a context menu item. So,
albeit with however you want to change that index depends on what you do.
Yes.
Raivi has like a unique way of doing it as well as myself.
Which you can change the number any way you see fit, but the way I do it for my tool, for example, my custom multi-tool, is I can touch my trackpad a couple times and bring up this menu, and then I can just roll my wrist to pick the appropriate tool. If anyone remembers from the old times, it's like the old context menu before we got the new UIX ones. And yours uses 3-dimensional space and is that a slider, I believe?
Yes, a slider with snap increments, so that each one of these tools checks if this little box is in a certain position of space, and if it matches, use this tool. Say if it's right here, it's position 1, 0, or -1. It's that, so...
A classic.
Mhm.
Okay, so to get started with a context menu, I'm going to go to our multi-tool and give us a new slot.
I don't think we really need these anymore.
Rampa mentions, I remember someone calling the old context menus wrist breakers. Yeah, I mean, maybe. I'm gonna add here context menu. And I'm going to add to this a few components. We're going to add Radiant UI, context menu, root context menu item, which we will get back to in a moment. We're going to add a context menu item source and place that in the root item here. Hello?
Oh, that's just a little icon.
Oh, great.
Usually used for menu.
And we're going to go Radiant UI, context menu, and context menu submenu, because we want to only have one item, and when you click it, it opens a little custom menu of tools that you can choose from. We want our submenu root to be the context menu itself, and through a lot of tweaking, I've realized that if you don't provide a speed override, then the menu opens slower than if it was a default submenu like locomotion. So the value I've seen that works as if you want it to have the same speed as those other menus is to set the speed override to 10. We're going to call this, what would be a good name for this?
Tool selection.
Yeah.
Tool select. Either or.
Let's keep it white for now. And right now, if I were to take this tooltip now and I look at my context menu, I have the tool selection item, which currently does nothing. But you'll also notice on my other hand, it also shows up here. We would really only want this tool, the option to show up on the tool's hand as if it were, say, the create new menu option on the dev tip. That only shows up on the hand that's equipping that tool. And to do that, we actually need a little bit of logics. Are you going to set up the sprite?
Yeah.
Alright.
Seems that Wraith brought in 3 more.
Oh, perfect.
There we go. Now it should have
Yeah.
like a little generic
Yes, it
menu
does.
option icon.
That actually looks really good.
Just made that in Blended.
Alright, so I'm going to get my logics tip. Although we could use the multi-tool to do this, but that's a little bit meta, so I'm just going to use the logics tip for now. And what we want to do is, if we look on the root context menu item, it has an only for side option here. But you'll notice it's actually 2 values in one. It's a Boolean value, and then the actual side value. This is called a nullable type, and this can currently only really be constructed with logics. So I'm going to open my node browser, and I'm going to go under Operators, Nullable, Pack Nullable, and I will explain more about this once I'm finished. And we want to check what hand you're currently equipping the tool in, and there's a logics node for that too. You can find that under Tools, Tooltip Equipping Side. And this is of type chirality, which chirality is handedness, left hand, right hand, whatever. We're going to plug that in, and we're going to put the has value to, actually, we can put the has value to is tooltip equipped, which is a Boolean value. It makes no difference whether it's true or false, but in this case, why not? Now, we have the value that we want to plug into here. We're going to grab our root context menu item component, press secondary to pop out its interface card, and I'm going to plug the new funny transparent packed chirality wire into the only for side option, and we can see it drives it appropriately. If you're curious, no, we can't just plug the chirality directly into it, because it is, as we see here, it's 2 values, not just 1. The one thing we're missing now is the tooltip. We can get that conveniently from this window open here. We have our Tooltip Multiplexer. Going to pop out its interface, and we're going to plug it into both of these, like so. We don't need that interface anymore. And I'm going to make a new slot now. I will call this... actually, to make this a bit more specific, I'll call this multi-tool logics, not to confuse it with the logics tip that it has. I'm going to grab it like usual, set the packing route, hold secondary until the circle completes, aim at your logics, and let go to pack it. And what this does, if we pay attention to the context menu here when I equip it, is when I grab it and equip it with my right hand, it does nothing, and I know exactly why. So, every now and then when you're working with logics values, you'll notice that some values just don't really update, and that's because some values only update when something asks for, basically when something asks for its value. Whereas, in our case, nothing is really asking for its value, it's just taking a value and using it. So, what we really have to do is we need to make sure that this value always updates, and we can do that with, on the very root here at the very bottom, we have an updating relay. Now, lots of people, it seems to be a consensus that this node is bad and it has bad performance impact. Well, if you use it wisely and you know where to use it, you know how it works, in that it will update a value and propagate the changes forward and back, but it's not as bad as people think it is. So I'm going to place it here, as we're interested in this value. So now, no matter what, regardless of what changes over here, this value will stay up to date, which is what we need. So I'm going to repack this, quit my tool, and you'll see now it says it's only for my right side. However, if I equip the tool in my left hand, it shows only on my left. Great, that's exactly what we're wanting. And it's quite handy if you want to have a custom context menu for your tool. Now, we need to add the items for each of the tools that we have. And we're going to do this by adding another slot under our context menu. And our first tool is developer, so let's work on that first. We're going to call it developer. And we're going to attach a Radiant UI context menu item source. I'm going to call this one also developer. And I'm going to make its color red to match its generated visuals. Aegis is adding a sprite provider because we have a few handy dandy images here for these, and applying it to the context menu item source. Now, right now, this button currently does nothing. Although I am going to have it so that close menu on press for these options is enabled, so that when you pick a tool, your menu automatically closes and you can get back to work. But what we need is for this button to change the tooltip index to the one that we want. In this case, we want to set it to 0, which is our dev tip. And we can do that with a special component underneath Common UI, button interactions, button value set. And in our case, we want to set type int or integer. The target value that we're wanting to set, we're going to grab our index here, place it in the target value, and the default value, set value, is already 0, so we don't even have to do anything. And to demonstrate, we can already do that, even though we haven't set up the rest of the tools. Right now, we're on the material tip. It's totally functional. If we go to our tool selection and click developer, it's now a developer tip. Great. Now, setting this up for the rest of the tools is quite easy. I'm just going to duplicate this slot a couple of times. Going to call one logics, and I'm going to have its set value be 1. Thank you, Aegis, for changing the icon. I'll set its color to bluish to match the tool, and the third one will be material, and I'm going to set this to white, and our index will be 2. Now, finally, if we grab our tool, and we go to our tool selection menu, we have our 3 available tools. And if we pick anything, we forgot to update the labels. If we pick any of them, it swaps to the appropriate tool. And before I forget, let's fix those labels. You just actually drag those names down, actually. Like so. And if we look again... Ah, yes, selection. And if we look again, the labels are correct. Now, let's say we wanted to add a fourth tool. What do you think would be a good fourth tool? Light tip? There's a lot to choose from.
Grabbable setter tip.
Grabbable setter. Okay. So, it's really easy to extend this tooltip. We just add a new child under tools. In this case, I'm going to call it, if I can spell, grabbable. That's not how you spell grabbable. Hold on. Grabbable setter. Although I don't... Is grabbable a word? I don't know.
It's a logics thing.
Well, yeah, but... Okay, it's
I don't know
our
if it's
word. We're gonna go under
I'm
tooltips,
joking.
and we're going to add a grabbable setter tip. And just like before, we're gonna uncheck grabbable, or not uncheck, get rid of grabbable. Get rid of its grip poses. Oh, should have done that while we were there. Check block equip. Put our tip reference into its tip reference. We can get rid of its. It has a visual. And now we can go to its root. Attach a transform drivers. Value equality driver of type int. Do we still have the other window open? We don't. And we're going to go to our tooltip. And I'm going to grab our index. Thank you. Go here. Put that in our target value. Our value that we're now checking against is 3. And we're going to set the active state of it based on that. And finally, we're going to take our grabbable setter tip component and add it to the list. Picture? Oh, you got an
So
icon.
let's get it in a higher resolution.
You could also zoom in. That works.
Actually, yeah, good point. Good point. Oh, that's much
There
better.
you go. All right. Now, we're going to go to our context menu. Grab one of these slots. I'm going to rename it to grabbable setter. Our value that we're setting is 3. It's called grabbable setter, not material.
Component clone. I should have thought
Orange.
about that one.
Oh, yeah. And glue. Well, we can add that next. And I'm going to put that on its icon. And I want dev tip. There we go. We look here. We can go to our tool selection. There's grabbable setter. Click it, and now it's the grabbable setter tip. Great. You have a fourth tool. I think another neat one to be added, just to go over this again real quick, is component clone, because that's very handy. Let's see, component clone. And again, we're going to attach a tooltips, component clone tip, block equipping, set our tip reference, get rid of the grabbable, take our component, put it in the multiplexer list, and get ourselves a transform drivers value equality driver of type int. We're checking our index. Is it equal to 4? I think 0, yeah, 4, because there's 5 tools and that's 5 minus 1. Set the active state. And yes. Get rid of its grip poses as well, because we don't need it. It doesn't need its own tip reference in this case, because we're using our own. And finally, we go to our context menu. Rename it to component clone. They just already set the sprite for it for me, thank you. I'm going to set color. Bit more yellow. And we're setting our value to 4. And now, If we open our tool, it has 5 tools, and you can pick. We forgot to change the label again. Actually, if you update that Aegis, this will update here. There it is. Yay! You click it, we now have component clone. And to demonstrate we have component clone, I can take our sprite provider, press secondary to clone it, and then click on the handle of the inspector to put that in our slot. But let me uncheck single instance on so that it will make multiple. And there's another one. So we have component clone. Which would be very useful, actually, if you're adding a lot of tools, so that you can add a bunch of value equality drivers of type int on all of your tools as you're going along, instead of having to make a new one every single time. So maybe you should have added component clone earlier.
Dang.
Okay.
Well, and another thing to note too is the more stuff you put on a radio menu, the more cluttered it gets. So
Yes.
in this case, so people would probably, if you wanted even more tools, make subcategories of it too. It's just more deeper of a menu.
Like you could have tools here, and then you could have another button which says page 2 or more tools, and then it gives you another set of tools. How you
Dev
set up the
tools or material or asset tools, brushes.
custom tools, whatever.
Yep.
And you can change these visuals too to whatever you like. Like right now we have it set to the default red code generated tooltip, which is granted unlike the gold tooltip we're used to, but it is still a dev tip. But of course you can change that to whatever you want. For example, Aegis's is a nice spin on the default take, whereas my dev tip is purple. And my tools change color. And they're all the same tool, well, except for some fancy things like the material tip needs a sphere. So, there you go. Yes, Ramp, that's how you properly use the component clone tip if you want to place something onto a very specific slot, is you click the handle of the inspector with the slot selected. Very handy tip. I remember when I first learned it, it was amazing. So there you go, there's your amazing tip of the day.
A tip on tooltips.
Yeah. A tooltip tip. Alright. Are there any other tools that we want to add to this before we move on? Chat, do you think there's a very useful tool that we could add aside from these 5 that would be very beneficial to your average user? I would say glue tip, but like glue tip. Light tip would be handy, actually. Let's do that. The light tip is, it actually generates quite a few things on it, including all of the light visuals. And we'll see that here once I add the light. I'm gonna add tools, tooltips, light tip. And this adds, it actually adds nothing. Oh, that's right. Okay, so code-generated light tip is a little bit funny. So I'm actually going to use this opportunity to not generate it from code and actually show how you can take an existing tooltip, custom or not, and integrate it into your own multi-tool. Like say you use my custom logics tip available in my public folder, shameless plug, which allows you to snap logics on an arbitrary grid. You can absolutely implement that into your own tool by doing it like this. I'm going to take the tool that we want, open it in an inspector, and go to its root. Here we go. And all you have to do is take the entire tip itself, put it under tools, and reset its transforms. Now generally this is working for the light tip because it has nothing custom on it, but of course if the tool that you're adding has custom logics, custom functionality, your mileage may vary. We're going to block grip equip on this, take our tip reference and put it there, get rid of grabbable, and keep everything else. And we can get rid of its grip poses. And we can go to our light tip. And I should have component cloned this, but whatever, I'm already here. Transform, drivers, value equality driver of type int. We're setting the active state of our slot. We're checking if the value is 5, which is the next available index. From our tooltip here, add that while I'm at it. And I'm going to plop that there. I see Aegis has already set us up with the next context menu item for the light. In this case, we're setting the value to 5.
Yep. It's all set.
Oh, there's
Should work.
2 button value sets here.
Oh, what?
Interesting.
Did we just both put them on at the same time?
I don't know how that got there.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, I accidentally added one. I did not notice the one up there.
It pays to be vigilant.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that we've
Should
added
work.
this, our custom tool in this case is the light tip. I didn't put the component in. Let me grab the light component, the one thing you forgot to do. Yes, there's quite a few steps to this, unfortunately. In this case, we need to put the component there. It's like forgetting to wire something up in Logix. Isn't it great? Thank you. And now, look, it's a light tip. It does the thing. It does all of the light tip things. Isn't it cool? And you can switch to another tool at any time in case you're done making a light. It's super handy. I love multi-tools. Ever since I first found learned of the existence of multi-tools, I've been using my own, and it has sped up my workflow tremendously, which I believe that's what we can cover in the next few minutes here is our own and show a little bit of what's possible now that we have a very functional little tip. Let's close a few inspectors here since we don't need these anymore. Let's see. And I guess I'll go over my tooltip first because I know lots of people have seen me with this tooltip, and I think I have written my multi-tool to be as quick and efficient as it possibly can with switching tools, which is why I chose for switching it like this with kind of a wrist twist menu, because it's very quick. I can just twist my wrist as far as I know I need to go to get to the next tool. Granted, of course, this only works in VR. You can't do this in desktop mode. But if that's not a problem with you, then you can do neat things like that. Now, since I am in VR and I have a Logix tip, you're not just limited to tools, to things on the tool. I also have attached to my other hand, thanks to some custom Logix on the tip itself, a Logix menu, which is very custom and very, well, purpley and black and such, and it's always on my left hand, and it's always accessible, so I don't have to go and use the node browser like this ever again, because, well, here it is. And I can swap between things really quickly. You can also add, I've also have custom things here so that I can swap to kind of a sub tool, which in this case is called Wire Be Gone. I don't exactly know who made the original Wire Be Gone tool, but it's...
Lucas Rowe, I believe.
Okay, yeah. It's very handy. It gets rid of wires. Like that. It's still there, but it's mostly useful for interface cards and those pesky wires that go from the interface card to whatever it's attached to. But I digress. I have a lot of tools in here. I have custom tools, including I guess I'll demonstrate it. Look, pesky wire. Wire Be Gone. It's gone now. Really amazing tool. If it was Lucas the Beta's, great tool. I love it. I love the concept. But I do have custom tools on here too, like a teleport, and I can just aim anywhere and teleport there. Very, very quick, very handy in case I need to get somewhere very quick, for example. And that's my tool in a nutshell. Yours is similar in that it uses, as we showed earlier, kind of a spatial mechanism of attaching tools. It seems you have lines here showing connections between similar tools.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll see the visual for his tool adjusts according to what the tool is, but the actual tool itself is the same.
And depending on what kind of tool, I kind of have extra options that aren't normally visible like right away. You'd have to go into like the inspector to kind of change it or a radio menu. So I kind of want to have it readily available. So I even have like a working color wheel for this light tip as well as the color tool as well. So that's
wow.
very vibrant.
I was gonna say
I can
that's a bit.
change-
That's just a bit red. That.
Just a bit.
Very lightish
Also,
red too.
for anyone curious, it just says multi-tool is actually available in Essential Tools in his folder, if you're curious to see how it works and look at it or use it yourself.
The one thing
It
I
was
like
also...
about this one that I have, as I say, this was one that was done by a friend, so I can go on. It uses your kind of system, but I do like the way the material orb just floats in my hand. So,
yeah, like my Logic's hand menu.
Yeah.
That's very nice, actually. I haven't thought about that.
So I pull that off, and then I want another texture. Yeah, and it just comes into my hand and it's got a really cool effect around it.
That's very nice.
But
Very
yeah,
satisfying.
you can do some really cool stuff with some of these tools. So, and actually, I don't think the camera didn't get to see that actually, so I'll actually show that again.
Oh.
Because I was on Agus's perspective, so if I switch back again, now that Raivi can see me, I can actually drop a material orb into my hand, and it stays in my hand. It has a really cool glowing effect, and I can just swap them out, and it just floats around my hand when I move my hand.
Huh. I really like that.
How I got mine set up is kind of like a little mini shelf of materials that have like little snap points that I borrowed from the material tool itself and duplicated around. It's also the same thing with the mesh tooltip.
Yeah.
So I can just snap these into these small little snap points and spin this around, although I probably gotta adjust that too. It's been a while. Yeah.
It's always a constant improvement of these tools.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And I love making them. It's so fun making tools and having the community use them.
Yeah. The thing I like about this one is it is just pretty much the standard dev tip. Apart from it just looks slightly different for each mode. Like what you've done with yours, but yeah, there you go, there's the light tip.
I saved the example multi-tool in the examples folder under these essentials in the workshop
fantastic.
Wednesday. So
but yeah, I get the little stick on it for sun.
The little stick.
I get the little stick on it for sun, a little dot on it for point light, and then when it's spotlight, I get the little cone, like our actual tool does.
Yeah, very nice. Also, one last thing that I've done with my tool in specific is you never see me with my tool on tool shelves or anything, because I have a special thing on all of my avatar's wrists that is a special tool holder linked with my tools, and I can just poke my wrist, and there's my tool. Say I've lost my tool in the world, it's over there, I can just poke my wrist again, and it comes back to me.
Oh, one of the other things as well, going into more advanced things with tools as well, you may notice I've got a standard thing on this, apart from the extra inspector menu here, but on my other wrist, I have other options when I'm holding the dev tip. Like clear my inspectors, clear global inspectors. And then if I'm in like the material one, it doesn't put anything up there. But if I recall correctly, when I'm in logics mode, scale nodes to self, packing options, and I've got all the options in here as well.
Wow. That's very nice, actually. I hadn't thought about using, 2 new inspirations today from you, Wraith.
And pack to void as well, that's always fun, or pack to box.
Yeah,
Pack to
good old
void.
Box.
Pack to void just destroys the logics.
Oh.
Also, Gun Griffin says, must have taken days to make these tools. I have been working on my tool since almost day 1 in Naos. Sort of.
Yeah.
A little bit more than a few days.
Seen so many updates, and you helped me optimize it too.
It was fun to work on that one.
I actually manually did every single one of these tools with like an equals node and logics for each and every one of the tool options until I found out about the value quality driver, and then that just simplified it
There we go.
so much.
That lovely component that we use a lot in this tool.
Yeah.
So you could imagine a very, very tall logics pack
Yeah.
or stack.
Logic's tower.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Gotta
Now
love
it
them
isn't.
logics.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Ryuvi and Aegis have been wanting to cover this topic for a long time because we had a strict rule in the workshop that we weren't allowed to use multi-tools until we covered them. So then people didn't get confused. But now we've covered them, we can now use multi-tools. Yeah, there's also the multiplex node as well. Yeah, that is really a good one.
Yes.
However, we should be heading back behind the desk now because we are coming up on the hour. So
Clean up here.
whee. So as I say, let's have a quick look through.
Let's put our new multi-tool down.
Yeah, Gun Griffin did say, how about a logic tip that spawns red prints and stuff? That's going a bit more advanced from what we wanted to do today. That's something we can go into at a later point, is how to spawn certain things, maybe from a context menu.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, our next plan is to cover gesture systems and how to do gestures using your controllers, for those of you who don't have face and eye tracking. And we could also cover, again, you could also do that once again with your radial menus as well as your controllers. So you could have a more permanent expression. So I could go into my, say here, and go avatar control and say sad. And I'm always in a sad mode then. But that's something we'll be covering in a fortnight for you guys.
Not the game.
Yeah. Cloud spawning plus, says Gun Griffin.
That's a bit advanced there
That
too.
is a bit more advanced. However, it is something we could cover, maybe. Because
if people have interest.
we've happily said we will do advanced workshops and the more advanced stuff as well as we progress. Because we want to start with the basics and get up to some of the more complicated stuff. But I do believe, you know, we are, as I say, we have come up on the hour now, so that's all we have time for this week. And we're going to be returning back in a fortnight with our gestures and all that goodness. And our Neo stream returns this week on Friday. So I shall see you then. Ryuvi won't. Maybe
I'll be at
Aegis.
BLFC.
Yeah, Ryuvi's going BLFC.
So if you're
Aegis
going,
will
you'll
be-
see me there.
Aegis should be around with us though. So, as I say, thanks all for watching, and we will return in 2 weeks. Just remember, we will have the world open for about half an hour to an hour after we finish, so you can come over and ask us questions about tooltips. And, well, not just about tooltips, but you can come over and ask us questions in general. Like, you know, asking Ryuvi how to cook a perfect turkey. Yeah.
No.
But yeah, as I say, this has been the Workshop Wednesday. You can check us out at discord.gg/neosvr. And you can also, I'll say this for the benefit of our YouTube channel. Just remember, we do stream on Twitch. You can check us out at twitch.tv/neosvr. And we will see you soon. Take care, guys.
See
Hey,
you.
Ryuvi, can you talk for a moment? I forgot I added this on the tooltip.
Wow.
Wow.
Blasted.
Was that on stream?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, we haven't gone off yet.
And now we are.
And now we go.